Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Carl. I'm a recovery coach here at Capital Recovery Center. This is the all recovery meeting for the day. The article I have here is 3 areas of change in your recovery. Recovery is a beautiful journey. It's one of the most loving things you'll ever do for yourself. When you're new in sobriety, trying to blend your old life with the new can sometimes be difficult. Balancing act. Changing people, places, and things is necessary during the initial phase of recovery or when you're feeling emotional overwhelmed by life challenges, these 3 things can suddenly become triggers that lead to a relapse. Change is never easy. It's a day-to-day process. However, recovery brings change for the better, especially in the following 3 areas. So let's see what the first area that we're talking about. So number one, places. Bars, clubs, and concerts are slippery places when you're new, and especially if they're played a big part during your past addiction. That's not to say you can't go to these places ever again. But when you're new in recovery or not in a good place emotionally, you have no business being there. For less rowdy events such as gatherings and weddings, make sure to bring a sober friend. If you're not sure about an event, you should run it by your sponsor or someone else in sobriety. Living experience frequently with slippery places will only leave you feeling like an outsider as you watch other people drink. It's a silent form of torture and a setup for relapse. So this article is basically is about 3 areas of change, and we always a lot of us talk about like the places, people, places, and things. It can be hard to try to avoid or not revisit the same people, places, and things when we get into recovery. I know for me, um, from just my personal experience, it was easier for me this time to avoid people, places, and things that was associated with drugs and alcohol because I was willing and I was ready to better my life. As before, I would go to treatment or I went to jail or wherever the case was, I wasn't just ready. I wasn't willing to surrender. And, I always went away, came back to the same area and did the same things, over and over again. And, which I was eventually tired of. I was just, you say the saying, became beaten to be willing. I was just like this revolving door, and I really had to change people, places, and things this time at all costs. I had to be willing to put the work in, and for some people it can be tough. I don't associate with people, places, and things that's from my past and addiction. I don't surround myself that people that use or don't uh, live a life that I'm trying to live, to accomplish. Not just about drugs and alcohol, right? It's about the behaviors and the way people think, the way they treat themselves and others. I disassociate myself that with people that just not living right. Sure, there are a saying in the rooms of recovery: if you go to the barbershop enough times, eventually you'll get a haircut. Heard that saying before. It says just because you can no longer frequent your past haunts doesn't mean that you can't have fun in sobriety. A lot of meeting halls and support groups sponsor sober dances, events, and other activities. So get involved and find out what's going on in your area. Life isn't over. In fact, it's just the beginning. Take this time as an opportunity to explore things that you've always wanted to do but couldn't because addiction got in the way. Take a class of hiking or find a new hobby. Once you begin to consider the possibilities, you'll discover a life that's limitless. And I can agree with that. It's like I didn't know who I was going to become without drugs and alcohol. I didn't know my life was going to be consist of. I don't know how I'm going to be happy or associate with other people without using drugs and alcohol because my life consists of using for many many years. So I had to surround myself with new people, places, and things. And that can be scary, right? That can be uh, full of fear of the unknown and what my life is going to be without using, right? especially, experiencing emotions and feelings that we tried to suppress for so many years. We don't like to feel sad or uncomfortable, or, we don't like to experience emotions and feelings. We just like the best way is to avoid and run or shut down, and drugs and alcohol is an escape from experiencing uncomfortable emotions and feelings. And for me, I didn't have healthy coping skills, right? I just I always made the problem even worse, always added to the problem, right? I was never in the solution or trying to get better. I was just always causing more chaos and more conflict and just adding to the problem. And that was one of the reasons why kept in the cycle of active addiction, because I couldn't get out of my own way. And I kept on surrounding myself around the same places and the same people and doing the same things. It says number two, people. Get high buddies should be cut off immediately. Don't forget your recovery is your responsibility. You may have friends who've been in your life for years, but if those relationships revolve around drinking or using drugs, you'll need to back off. If they are your real friends, they'll understand and want to see you make positive changes in your life. Of course, there are some people you can't stay away from, like family members. Some are especially gifted in bringing up the past and knowing just the right buttons to push to start a fight or a heated discussion. These interactions can lead to feelings of remorse and anger, or another trip to the liquor store. Um, so for me, that was my story for many years of like I would get the help that I needed, and I would surround myself with. It talked about get high buddies, right? I thought I can go around then and thinking that I wouldn't use, or I wouldn't use that. I was in denial. I was very in denial, and I didn't want to face the reality. And it was hard for me to cut friends off that I was associated for many, many years, right? And today, it's like it's for cutting people off from my past that I used to get high with. It's not like I don't love and care about them or I'm not willing to help them. It's just I can't participate in their lives like I did before. If I want to keep what I have today in recovery, I have to cut them off, right? Doesn't say like if they needed help today, right? I would help them. I would help them if they needed help, depending on what kind of help they needed, right? Um, but to protect my life and my sobriety, I have to really keep them at a distance, and just they're not involved in my life like they used to be, and that's okay. If I want to keep what I have today, I have to do things that I don't like doing, right? And it can be uncomfortable. It can be sad, because I was part of these people's lives for many, many years, and they're a part of mine in some way, shape, or form. Yes, they could have been unhealthy and are very destructive, and that could be toxic, but it was familiar, right? It was the relationships, that we build. Like I said, it could have been unhealthy, but it was familiar. And creating new people, places, and things can be very uncomfortable, but like I had to at least be willing and to be open minded and to actually try and build new relationships. And some relationships from my past been amended, the ones that needed to be amended, and some were just, lost right now. I would never say like in a future that we couldn't amend relationships, right? Because timing can be everything. But just like for right now, some relationships are just not meant to be, not at this moment, not at this time. And if I want to experience uh, my full potential and what recovery has to offer me, I have to avoid people, places, and things that I associated myself with using for many, many years. It's just the nature of it. And And like I said earlier, I create new people, places, and things, and create new relationships. And since I've been doing that, like my life has flourished. My life has gotten full. I experienced a lot of things that I never experienced in life, good, bad, and different, but mainly all positive. Because we just doesn't mean we get clean, right? That life and problems stop happening, right? So I just have a better way to deal with what comes my way, right? And that's all through the process of recovery and people helping me and showing me how to get through things, even difficult at times that sometimes we don't see a way out, right? People share their experience, strength, and hope, and we one person helping another, and we get through things together. We don't have to go through recovery or through life alone, in which I tried to do for many, many years. Right? I tried to do things my way, when I wanted it, how I wanted it. Um, I wasn't willing to listen. I wasn't willing to take direction. I was very self-righteous, rebellious, and that got me in a lot of trouble. So today, like I listen, I pay attention. Might not always take the suggestions, but like I am open minded. I am willing. I do listen, and for the most part, I do take action. And from me doing that, and people guiding me and helping me, and showing me how to live a life that I always wanted, my life has gotten tremendously better, and I don't want to give that away, right? I don't want to go backwards. I want to go forward, and I just don't want to uh, be clean off of drugs and alcohol and still behave the same way I did before, right? I need to change. I need to change everything, not just people, place, and things. But I had to change my attitudes, my behaviors, my thoughts, the way I behave, right, the way I treat myself, the way I treat others. People, trust me today. People, I'm reliable, I'm accountable, I'm trustworthy, I'm hardworking. I have a lot of assets. I have a lot of things in my life that I don't want to give up, and there's things I have to do to continue to stay here, right? And it takes work. Says to better manage interactions with difficult people, keep conversation to a minimal and focus on the present. Avoid getting drawn into fights or rehashing the past. Go to meetings and share the challenges you're facing in these situations. You'll be surprised at the amount of help and understanding you receive. Others have also had to surmount the same challenges, and they are glad to offer tips, strategies, and suggestions. When you share what's going on, it takes the power of negative thought patterns and feelings. It says, taking, difficult people in difficult situations, and we come across people that we used to use with, or drink with, or party with, and like it says, take it to the conversation to a minimum, to a minimum. Um, and that's what I kind of think I do, right? When I see people that I used to uh, participate using drugs and alcohol, I say hi, how you doing? I just don't brush them off, right? I keep it to a minimum, hi and goodbye, and if they chat a little bit, I do talk with them for the most part, but you know, I got to be very aware of my surroundings, and what I say to certain people, right, and how I conduct myself, because I don't want to cause more harm, right? Because I learned, like, if I come across people that I used to use with, if I uh, just brush them off or don't say anything at all or don't acknowledge them, that can create some conflict, right? So that can cause some chaos. But I take it as talking and engaging at a minimum concern, so it doesn't cause more problems, it doesn't cause more conflict. Um, but other than that, like people that I used to use with, it's sad to say, is They're dead in jail, or I just haven't seen them, right? And there's very few that I see that I used to use with. Since I've been in recovery, I see very few people that I used to use with that are in recovery. From my background and from my past relationships, there's very few people that I still see. You know, so I choose to stay here. So when somebody does walk through them doors, I can give back what's freely given to me. Number three, things. It's amazing how the simplest thing can become connected to drinking or using. Perhaps you drank while listening to music for hours on end. Or maybe there's a certain movie you watch while under the influence. These are common things to do, but unfortunately, they are now distorted by addiction and cannot be done the same way. If you're a music lover, this doesn't mean you can no longer listen to music. You just need to be more mindful of your thoughts and feelings while you listen now. Anything that can lead to romanticizing your past experience is probably not good for your recovery at this point. So I guess it talks about things that used to be associated with using drugs and alcohol, right? So it talked about music, and so I guess so for some of us, music can be a trigger. So there's a lot of things that can be triggers, and they're all different for everybody. But recovery has taught me to acknowledge my triggers, and to like steer away from them. And when I do feel triggered, to open up and be honest and call someone. Call somebody that is in recovery that you can get you through that process. Instead of keeping it in and not saying anything or isolating from your emotions and feelings and not expressing yourself can be deadly. It can we're one step away from using drugs and alcohol. It can I mean some people can look at it differently, but one bad choice can really get us in a bad situation. So like I stay guarded, right? I have to be very aware of what's going on and the nature of my disease of addiction, because cunning, baffling, and insidious. It can be sneaky. So I have to be on guard a lot, so it can talk to you in your own voice, right? We heard that saying before. But like when we experience things like triggers and cravings and thoughts, we have a different way to deal with them. And that's what recovery has given me. Call a friend, call your sponsor, call a mentor, you know, you know, go with, go do something that you love doing, hobbies, talking, there's a whole bunch of new things that we can do instead of just automatically using drugs and alcohol. My past shows that when I pick up anything, even a little bit, right? My life just dwindles away quickly, so I choose to stay here and surround myself with new people, places, and things. And because since I've been doing that, my life has gotten way better. I can't put it in words how much my life means to me, and because I want to keep it today, right? As before, I just didn't care. I didn't care if I lived or died or what happened, right? I didn't care about my well-being. So today I cherish my life and I want to continue through this journey of recovery. And there's things I have to do. There's not maybe or just this now. I have to do. Um, it says, so be honest with yourself, keep an open mind, and be willing to approach activities differently. If it makes an impact on your sobriety, the reward will be well worth the effort. So on this part here, talked about things, right? And yeah, I disassociated myself with all things, most things that associate with drugs and alcohol. There's some things that you just can't get around, right? And but I have tools in my toolbox, when that situation or whatever transpires, right? I have a coping skill to deal with life challenges and things that come my way, right? Like I said, um, since I've been in recovery and been clean off of drugs and alcohol, um, I have a choice today, right? I have a choice. I can be part of the problem or I can be part of the solution. And like I said earlier, like I never had coping skills. I didn't have tools in my toolbox, right? So I have things today to guard myself from people, places, things that can ultimately bring you down. So I'm more aware today. I'm very conscious of what's going on and not delusional like I used to be, right? I'm in reality for the most part, right? So it's just recovery is a beautiful thing. That I can see my assets, right, and recognize my defects. And because if I not aware, right, I don't think I have a problem, you know. But I also have people in my corner that will love and care about me and, point out and give me a different perspective on things. It's like, well, maybe you shouldn't do that, or, maybe think about that before you do that. I'm not telling you what to do, but like, I need that in my life, because like I said, I always ran off my own juice. I was very self-willed. I always did things my way, and my way got me nowheres, right? So I'm just blessed to recognize some things today and be the sense of awareness that I have. That was our all recovery meeting, and that's three areas of change in recovery. It says places, people, and things. Very important, man. Very important to disassociate yourself with past people, places, and things, and make amends when it needs to be amended, and create new people, places, and things to to build a network of people and go through their new life and the process of recovery. And it's a blessing to just be visible and available and to receive another chance at life. So that was our all recovery meeting for the day. My name is Carl, recovery coach here at Capital Recovery Center. Until next time, we'll see you later.